Hello and welcome. Well, in our continuing series of what we're facing just in such difficult times, I'm going to be talking to John Knight from Business Depot. John has actually prepared 10 positive steps that we can take or that we need to take in our businesses right now in what are very difficult times. John joins us from his office in Brisbane. John Knight from Business Depot. G'day, John. How are you doing?
I'm good, thanks, Kevin. How are you doing?
Good. We've got you with the team in the background there pumping away. Busy times, very difficult times. Just keen to talk to you about what do we do in these uncertain times, dealing specifically with real estate businesses.
Yeah, well, uncertainty is the key word there, isn't it? We just don't know how long this is going to go on. We don't know what the impact is going to be on our businesses, and we don't know how long it's going to impact us.
No.
I think that the one thing I am certain about is that most businesses are going to feel something. Now, real estate agents out there at the moment might still be getting people through their open houses, might still be getting some contracts away. But sooner or later, someone's not going to list their property for sale or someone's not going to be able to pay their rent. So the first tip that I always give anybody when they're in some financial strife within a real estate business in particular is to calculate their break-even point. Now, when I talk break-even point, the classic break-even point is a profit break-even point. How much money do you need to make just to pay your costs that you've already got commitments to day in, day out? But it's important to go a step further than just profit break-even. And I've talked about this before with you, Kevin, the idea of a cash break-even as well. The idea of what, in addition to those costs that are on your P&L, do you need to worry about? Those loan repayments, those old debts, those tax commitments, and what do you need to pay the school fees or just your own living expenses? How do they come out of the business? And so that's always the place I start. What is your break-even point so that you can get clarity on how much money you need to bring in every month so that you can just pay the bills and end up in a zero position?
We've got on screen there some of the points that you've made in break-even. Let's move to the second step, which is reviewing your costs and cutting some if you can. Can you give us some examples?
Well, obviously, once we know our break-even point, one way to get your break-even point down, one way to reduce the costs within your business is to, as much as I hate to say it, cut your costs. And what are some of those costs that you can look at? Now, there's a really interesting one, this one, because so many of us have spent so long investing in our culture, investing in our team. And so that's why we're seeing a lot more sort of arrangements this time around where people are going, well, how about you go on half pay? For a period of time to keep your job and just get us through this period of time. Because one thing that we do know about this is it's not going to last forever. And so the idea of keeping our core team, our core culture, our business family intact so that when we come out the other side, we're really strong. So obviously you are going to look at casual wages. If you've got casual wages and they're not going to be needed through the time, unfortunately, you're going to have to look at them. You are going to look at your permanent team members, whether you need to put them on some flexible arrangements, but maybe they give a bit and you give a bit to keep their role intact. But I do say to people, well, if there's someone that you think has not been providing value or you've already had a question mark over their performance, then you need to think pretty long and hard about that pretty quickly. Because I don't want you having a whole period of time where you're carrying this extra cost when you probably should have just cut it earlier anyway. Of course, I always encourage people to look at their subscriptions. I did it in my own business on Saturday. I sat down and I went through my whole P&L and I looked at every subscription that's going out and I reviewed, do I need to pay that or is there another thing we can do with that? Advertising, of course, funding advertising for others. You're going to see more vendors asking for that, aren't you? So making sure that you're not funding that advertise for other people. Look at some of those growth costs you have within your business. Quite possibly now's not the time to grow. Possibly. So maybe have a look at those growth costs and consider whether you can give yourself a bit of a break from them.
Yeah, it's really reviewing everything, isn't it? I'm particularly pleased to see number 3 is about emotional stress, because I know as an accountant we'd expect you to be talking about cost and profit and so on, but it's good to see you focus here because I think a lot of us don't realise the amount of stress that we're going to be under in the months to come, John.
Mate, often I think accountants are some of the best business counsellors around the place. I think sometimes we'd be better off with a psychology degree. And it's just the pure realisation that we are one of the advisors, one of the few advisors you have that actually get a full picture. You can go talk to your business coach or something, or if they don't have the numbers on your business, if they don't know your true liabilities, then they don't have a full conversation about what's going on in your business. And so it's something I always make sure is brought into a discussion with things like this. Change is hard. And we are now got this fast-paced change forced upon us. We have to adapt our businesses. We have to adapt the way that we work. So, think about think about the others within your business as well, and think about, well, what are the stresses that they've got going on? If their spouse or their partner has lost their job, they've got these home financial stresses. But what about they're worried about their grandmother who's 90 or something or other, and she's in aged care and they can't go and visit them. And so as a business leader, you need to be aware of these stresses within your people. And the best way I talk to people about doing that is understanding the personalities, understanding the people you're working with, so you can take that into account. I know when I look at my team, there's certain people who don't react as well to a stressful situation as others. So they get dealt with slightly differently when things like this come up.
Yeah, the next one, number 4, is talking about your suppliers. And I think this is an important point too, because we've got to understand that our suppliers are going through the same thing that we are, and they're probably expecting us to ring and have that hard conversation, which they've had to have with their own suppliers.
Well, I think ScoMo said it the other day in one of his speeches, everyone has something to pay in this. Everyone has some load to share. And so look at your suppliers and think about, well, is there a supplier that can give you some leeway, give you some room to move? The classic one that'll come up in real estate will be your landlord. Obviously, I'm talking about the landlord of your office, not the landlords within your rent roll. But reach out to your landlords and up front, request some room to move. Request some, whether it be a reduction in rent for a temporary period of time or pushing it out. There's no harm in asking. Now, of course, there's a flow-on effect to this. Then you've got all these landlords that are getting pushed back on the amount of rents that's being paid to them at the moment, and that flows on to commercial real estate businesses as well, doesn't it? But if we don't know, if we don't ask, we don't know.
That's right.
I know there's a lot of suppliers getting on the front foot here and putting their position out. The banks have put their hardship assistance packages out there for everyone to see. So talk to your bank, take advantage of that, build some room by pushing these arrangements out if you need to.
Yeah, make those hard conversations happen. The sooner you do it, the better. The next one about technology.
You said they're expecting it, Kevin. They're expecting you to ask.
Yeah, that's exactly what we should understand that. The next one you say is technology. Interesting here, because I just spoke to Jay Morris from Deercrit, and they've got some fantastic programs that are showing agents how they can work differently with buyers and sellers, with working remotely, with DocuSign and so on. So we need to be looking at technology to give us the answer as to how we're going to work in this environment, John.
Here's that opportunity for all that technology we've been talking about for so long now to take precedence and to absolutely shine. Quite possibly, this will change the way we do business. This will change the way we work forever and a day. In the last week, we've turned every meeting into a Zoom meeting, and it's actually amazing how effective those meetings are. I mean, we've always used Zoom, but we've obviously gone a lot harder with it. The meetings have been shorter, they've been more effective, and I can do them anywhere, so I don't have that travel time in between. So I think this adopting of the technology that's available out there and really running with it could potentially end up with absolute changes within our business model. So there are some amazing solutions out there for to use, online whiteboards, but even some of these, some of the AI sort of applications and so forth. In a crisis, we give these things a go and we power ahead, and it'll be interesting to see how the adoption ends up after this event.
And in talking to suppliers, which is one of the points we covered, we'll move to the next one, which is time for a merger or exit. And I think in talking to our colleagues, we need to understand too that they're in the same position. There could be some wonderful opportunities to bring some businesses that are in synergy together, John.
Yeah, and as much as I don't like saying it, I've been saying for a while now that the industry does need some consolidation. The sheer number of providers out there within the real estate industry is huge. So you've got peers out there who are probably going through the same position as you. What if you were to get together? Can we get a 1 + 1 + 1 = 3 sort of situation. Can we share some load with each other? But there's also a very personal element to this one as well. And that is, I think there was a lot of principals who got through the GFC only just. And I think if those principals are still trading today, I think many of them would not have the energy for another crisis like we could potentially have around the corner here. And so I think if you're feeling that way, I think you're probably better off moving now than waiting for 6 months' time, because there will still be people who will be trying to strengthen their own business, reducing their own break even by out there buying rent rolls at the moment. And so there will still be opportunities. I think we've still got to see how everything lands and to see how the response is from everybody. But I think there's still opportunities for collaboration, for mergers, for buying and selling.
Absolutely. And the next point is, I think, probably one of the most important we're going to make in this whole video. That's my view anyway, John, and that is number 7, which is being a strong, authentic leader. I think we have to realise the importance as a leader that we come to this with the right attitude. If we look defeated, then our team's going to be defeated. But if we're strong in this, not bullshitting, but I'm talking, facts. Tell people what's really happening and enroll them in the business.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk about the above average performers within real estate, one of the criteria of those businesses is they have strong leadership. And if you've got strong leadership, you tend to have strong culture. Now, it's culture and leadership that get you through these tough times. Having a leader who is authentic, who is transparent, who is honest about the situation. And don't forget, many of your workforce have never been through a crisis like this before. Now, this is a bit different because it's a health crisis and it's hopefully only a temporary short-term sort of crisis. But, when we compare it to GFC, not everybody was affected by GFC. Real estate was. But if you think about it, health professionals weren't necessarily affected by the GFC. But we now have a crisis that is potentially affecting almost everybody. And so what we need more than anything else is that leadership in the team, making those decisions, showing you've thought about the best way ahead, giving options, giving insights, and asking the team for some input on that as well. It's the classic getting everyone on the bus, get everyone face the front, give them somewhere to drive to, and make sure someone's at the steering wheel. And there's never been a time where that's been more important than it is now in the change that we're taking our teams through.
And that's a really nice segue into point number 8, which is about getting some accountability, getting everyone on the same bus, headed in the same direction. But at the same time, I think is one of the slides we're going to put up here, who's sleeping on your couch? Accountability, critical.
Yeah, well, see, the most important part of accountability is actually the discussion, isn't it? You can have all the KPIs in the world, you can have all the reports in the world that go out to the team, but unless you sit down and have a discussion with them about their performance, about what they're doing and what else they could be doing or what they're not doing, more importantly, because what you can't afford at the moment is to have any team members sleeping on your couch and drinking your beer. You need people who are all contributing, because otherwise you're going to have 2 employees in the team who are working just to pay the wage of the other one who's sleeping on the couch. And you just can't afford that waste in your business at the moment. So get some accountability and, more importantly, have a discussion about it on a regular basis.
The final 2 points, I guess, really come together, but I'd like to deal with the number 9 first up, which is about finding some cash that you can access. What would be your advice to someone who finds themselves a little bit cash strapped right now? What's available, John?
Well, there's some great concessions, which does tie into the next point that have started to come out. The banks have released their hardship assistance packages as well. So there's things like they'll enable you, most banks are saying they'll enable you to push your loan repayments out. I think it was 6 months. There's a blog on our website that summarises most of the bank's position. So if you push your loan repayments out 6 months, if you can think about your own personal position, if you need to put cash in, where can you get it from quickly? So what I'm thinking about, the biggest outlays you're going to have in your business is going to be your rent and it's going to be your team, isn't it? The other creditors and suppliers, we can probably push out a bit. We can probably have some open discussions with them about the position. So look at your home loans, look at whether you've got some redraw facilities, have an upfront discussion with your bank. Some of the other announcements that's been made is the ability to get loans of up to $250,000 interest-free. for a period of 3 years with no repayments in the next 6 months as well. So there's opportunities there. Talk to your bank and make sure you're exploring those opportunities that may be available to you.
And just to sum up, last slide we'll bring up here is about getting on the front foot. It's all about being proactive. We talked here about leadership. That's true leadership. You know, now's the time to step up and show some leadership. John, just before I go, just the last slide we'll bring up here about if you've got any questions, all you've got to do is ask. We'll bring up the contact details there for Business Depot. And I noticed too the REIQ there as well, but because our program goes nationally, the Institute in each one of your states is going to be available to help you through this process as well. You don't have to be alone, John.
Yeah, and check out the tax concessions that the government's announced. They've just announced another whole package. Most real estate agents will be well positioned to get the tax concessions or the stimulus package. The big one in there is really up to $100,000 of support. And it's interesting how they're going to implement that. It's going to be an automatic credit on your BASs and your monthly activity statements. So if you deduct tax from people's wages, there's a whole system that they've put in place where they will credit you up to 100% of that tax that you take from people's wages with some maximum limits over a couple of periods. Probably a bit hard to talk to over a video call, but if you jump on our blog, there's an updated stimulus package link, and it's got in there some examples of how that stimulus will work and how you can get that money back. You don't actually have to do anything. It should be automatic, but all the details are in that blog, and we'll continue to update that same link with all the other things that get announced from state governments, from federal government, from banks.
I'll just get Nico to bring that up on the screen now. The website is businessdepot.com.au/blog, B-L-O-G. So that's up on the screen for you now to have a look at. John, always a great insight. Thank you very much for spending so much time putting all this together for us and for spending some time with me today. Thank you for your time.
My absolute pleasure, Kevin. And please, I wish everyone the best of luck with these next couple of months. You know, we are in uncertainty. Doesn't mean it's all doom and gloom, but we have uncertainty. So we've got to make the decisions that we can control and be ready to be stronger on the other side of it, because the strong will get stronger when we get through this. Thanks, Kevin.